What if the way you teach and care for young children could change the world? Welcome to Reimagine Childhood, brought to you by the Early Childhood Christian Network, helping you grow as an educator, leader, and follower of Jesus. Early childhood is a sacred season where hearts are shaped, faith begins to grow, and lifelong learning takes root. We believe teaching young children is more than a job, it's a calling. That's why each episode is filled with practical strategies, real stories, and faith-based encouragement to help you create joyful, meaningful learning experiences in your classroom and beyond. Let's reimagine what's possible in early childhood together. In today's conversation, I get to introduce you to a farmer's wife, stay-at-home mom, part-time teacher, and author. Sarah Philpott is a PhD. She lives on a cattle farm in the South. She's the mother of 4 lovable and mischievous children and wife to one hardworking farmer who has been her sweetheart since high school. We're talking today about her 2 new children's board books. These are Lift the Flat books. They are beautiful, y'all. We'll link to them in the show notes so that it's easy for you to find them online. The first one is called Wake Up Little Seed, that talks about the plant life cycle, and then Moo Moo Nap Nap, which is a nap time book. I think you'll love hearing about Sarah's heart to bring God's design into everyday living. Let's get right to it. Welcome to our podcast today, Sarah. I'm so grateful to be here, Monica. Thank you so much for inviting me. So I am excited. We get to talk about 2 amazing resources that you have created for young children, for parents of young children. They will work great in early childhood classrooms. Let's start out with your newest book called Wake Up Little Seed. Tell me a little bit about what made you want to write a book about planting, first of all.
We live on a farm, so I have a front row experience every single day to watch how God's creation work and the cycles of it. I also have 4 children, so it is just absolutely amazing to get to go out. We always go out in the summertime and before the 4th of July, and we take pumpkin seeds and we plant an entire field of pumpkins, and our kids get to watch the growth happen. And by October, we have a field full of pumpkins that the children love to invite their friends over so they can take them home. We do roadside sales. We just get to see the joy of creation. And it just made me realize that not all children necessarily have a front row seat to the lifestyle of farming. So it's a little foreign to them that a seed might grow. So that's kind of the premise behind the book is I just want to showcase, I want to bring as much as possible to life this concept of how a tiny seed goes into the ground, how it later emerges as this vibrant fruit or vegetable. And there's this place in the book where the farmer's children, when they see it start growing, they ask the farmer, is it magic? And the farmer says, this isn't magic. This is the way God created the earth to work. So that was my inspiration for this. I just want children to realize that God is the one who is the who behind the science.
I love that you're actually creating a real pumpkin patch on your farm for your kids and other kids to enjoy. But more than that, even, I love that you're connecting God to what we already know about science. I think it's easy for us in preschool classrooms especially. Like we've all done the stick a lima bean in the Ziploc bag with your little wet paper towel and watch it sprout and grow. And that's great. I do think kids need that hands-on. They need to be able to see what's happening. But to connect that to, no, this is God's design for, we bury something in the ground, but it doesn't stay there. But it's not magic. It really is God's design for how the world should work. So talk to me a little bit about just the process of planting, how long does it take, all those things, and then how can we connect that with young children in our classroom? Maybe more than just that lima bean in a baggie, but how can we connect this kind of science with God in our classrooms and make it really real for young kids?
So I think one of the greatest things that you can do in a classroom is take in a plant for kids. So you're going to start with the end in mind. So you're going to take in like a cantaloupe or a watermelon and open it up, cut the pieces so they can enjoy it, so they can taste the fruit. Then also show them the seeds that are inside for example, the watermelon. And then you can explain how the farmers are going to take these seeds and how God designed these seeds to go back in the ground the next season the way the cycle can start all over again. So then one of the things that I like to do, I recently went in my daughter's kindergarten classroom and shared the book, and we were able to do a little planting experiment. So we read the book and talked about how God is behind all the growth. But then we did what you said. We took the seed, we planted it into the soil, and then a couple days later, they were able to see a seedling start emerge. But also at the same time, I have that knowledge of, oh, this is what it might look like at the end because you showed them from the very beginning. This is our food. This is tangibly what we eat every single day, and that God created it. So I think definitely doing a project with the kids alongside reading the book makes it an extremely powerful activity for them.
Yeah.
And you asked about like, the different growth cycles.
Yeah.
Different seeds are going to take different times. So, like I gave you the example of pumpkins, we always start in June because it's going to take about 3 months between when you plant the seed till when you're actually going to be able to harvest the pumpkin. So, every seed's different. You just get to investigate the process.
I know several schools that have like planter boxes outside on their playground area and plant various things. So if you could plant various seeds out in those planter boxes and just help the kids like record, when did the seeds sprout? What do they look like? Oh my goodness, a month later, this is what they look like. This is what the flowers look like. And then eventually, hopefully, cantaloupe sometimes is easy to grow, or watermelon. Those are things that kids will really, they know those fruit. It can, I guess they're actually vegetables, some of them. But I think for a lot of us right now, like our kids are not even going to the grocery store anymore. So I think like my kids, mine are all in their 20s. And so when they were growing up, a lot of times they thought food comes from the store and didn't connect that, no, it actually, before it gets to the store, it comes from a farm or, from a dairy or something like that. But I think today's young kids, they don't even recognize food just shows up at their house. I mean, it either gets delivered or mom goes curbside and somebody puts it in the back of the car. They don't even see the various varieties of things that are available, like in the fruit and vegetable section, because they don't go to the store. So talk to me about how you feel like we could do a better job of that in our classroom. Like, how can we introduce kids to some different things that they should try or taste when their lived experience is very different?
I totally resonate with that. My oldest is 10 years older than my youngest. So I remember fondly going to the grocery store with him, choosing the fruits, choosing the vegetables, choosing all the food. And now my 5-year-old, the food is literally delivered to the doorstep. And that's, yes. So you're right. They don't necessarily have that experience of even going to the grocery store. So I think we as teachers or in our own homes, we can make purposeful conversations. I'm help them make, if you're going to make beef stew one night, help them see that we've got carrots and we're going to chop these carrots and put it in. We have celery. We're going to chop the celery. And where did this come from? And you can do the same thing in a classroom. Perhaps if you're having snack time or lunchtime, just go around the room and talk about what they're eating and what whole food is part of whatever they're eating. And you can make some associations so they can start connecting where that the food is real, and also where is the food grown. Talk about farms. Have a farmer come to visit, or go on a field trip to go visit a farm. Just go outside if you can and just show them let them dig. I think God intended us to be outside, and we want to try to make opportunities for kids to be able to be outside, to dig in the earth, to see the worms, to see that God made everything good to work together.
That's a really powerful message, that God really made everything good to work together for our benefit.
Yes.
Think about just creation in general. At the beginning of God's word, what he says is he put Adam into the garden to work the garden. God placed Adam in the garden to work the ground, to cultivate food before the fall. And that to me is really powerful, that we need to remind kids that God has created the world for us. So that's why we take good care of it. And also that God uses his own process, his own design, like this, in the seeds that we plant that then grow up into trees or plants or crops or whatever, to provide for us. That's how God actually works. I love that. I love that. Okay, quick story before we jump back into this episode. Picture this. It's summer in Texas. It's warm outside. The parking lot is filling up. The door's open. You've got your favorite iced coffee or water bottle in your hand. There's laughter in the hallways. Name tags are going on. Hugs between teachers who haven't seen each other since May. There's a buzz of energy and excitement. A room full of early educators who love Jesus and love children, ready to embark on another journey of growth. That's what our annual 2-day conferences feel like. For 2 whole days, Tuesday and Wednesday. Yes, you heard that right. Tuesday and Wednesday this year. July 14th and 15th in Georgetown, Texas, or August 4th and 5th in McKinney, Texas. We gather together to learn, to laugh, to worship, and refuel. You might walk into a breakout session led by a dynamic presenter equipping first-year teachers with classroom confidence. Down the hall, there's a seasoned director soaking up fresh leadership insight. Every age group, every role, birth through kindergarten, there's something here for you. And this year's keynotes, oh, I am so excited about them. We'll kick off Tuesday morning with Dr. Melissa Ewing, helping us understand how to truly set children up for success through the lens of brain research. Tuesday afternoon, Debbie Simmons, a true legacy architect, will challenge us to think long-term about the impact we're building every single day. Wednesday morning, Joy Wendling from Created to Play will remind us that play isn't just for children. We'll explore how God wired each one of us uniquely and how we connect with Him through our own play personalities. And we'll wrap up our time together with a hilarious sketch comedy duo, the Skitsy Chicks, who will have you laughing all the way to your car because early childhood is eternally important, but we don't have to be so serious all the time. Registration opens April 1st and stays open until about a week before each event. So let me ask you, where will you join us this conference season? Head over to earlychildhoodchristiannetwork.com to see all the details and save your seat today. Okay, now let's jump back into this episode. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit to your other book called Moo Moo Nap Nap. Listen, a question I get regularly is how in the world do we get these kids to calm down to go to sleep in the afternoon when they have so much energy, they don't want to settle, they just want to run around the room and be crazy. So how does this book, Moo Nap Nap, address anything related to getting kids to calm down?
So Moo Moo Nap Nap comes from lived experience as well. So my third child, Beckham, did not like to take a nap. And every day I'd take him into the bed and he'd fight nap time. And then one day I looked out our window and I noticed that the cows were gathering under the tree of the shade and they were resting. And it would happen every single day at the exact same time. So I'd look out and I'd say, see, Beckham, even the cows are taking a nap. They're taking their nap
I
time.
love
So
it.
that kind of became, we would look for the cows taking their nap and I just talked to him about how God made all of us have rhythms of rest. Even animals have rhythms of rest, and that it's important for us to do that. So that grew into the book Moo Nap Nap, where all the animals on the farm are kind of taking a little midday lull where the ducks are settling down for a little quack nap time. And so that was just the inspiration. And I think that consistency, that rhythm really always helps children to understand where their bodies and their minds can start resting. So whether you kind of read the same book over, it kind of just sets them up that, oh, this is nap time. This is the time where my body needs to be quiet. God made this so that I can be strong. My body needs to rest so that I can be strong. And so I think in classrooms, turning out the lights, reading a book, having some music, having a very repetitive time period, it just helps the kids settle down a little easier.
Yeah.
By no means am I an expert because for kids, there were still lots of nap time battles when mama just needed a nap.
That's the real,
Yes.
I think that's the real story is mama needs a nap. And in a classroom, the teachers are ready for a little break from activity. As adults, we're the ones that really need that rhythm of rest. The children think that they don't need that.
Exactly.
They actually do. So I love that you created a resource for mamas and for classroom teachers that is really about helping children settle. Because I think we also live in this really fast-paced world all the time where children sometimes need to be taught how to settle down. Like they really their natural rhythms are so excitable, and especially in a classroom where there's always something to do. And you see a lot of kids who are like, I don't want to miss out on anything. And if I lay down and close my eyes, I am sure that there's going to be something amazing that happens that I'm going to miss out on. So I don't want to stop moving. I think we can all kind of resonate with that. I had 3 sons, and definitely one of them was a great sleeper. The other 2, not so much. And we had to come up with all kinds of creative ways to get them to settle. But in this book, talk a little bit about how you use language and repetition and rhythm to kind of create that, like to create that settling environment for young kids.
So former teacher, still also teach part-time at the school where my children attend. I've helped in kindergarten, I've helped in preschool, 2nd grade, and now I'm in high school helping. But the purpose of the book was I really saw a need for just simple words. That way that, the storyline is easygoing. The storyline is predictable, where the kids are going to be able to predict what the animal sound is going to be in the book. And it's just a gentle book. So not only are the words easy for the kids who are, the early readers or who are gonna, start working with the letters and the sounds of words, but it also really helps the repetitiveness, helps to put them into kind of a rhythm of, we're going to be settled. This is going to be the time where I can slowly start easing my body. And at the very end of it, the farmer's children, of course, look around the farm. They see all the animals taking their naps, and so they start to yawn. So using that word yawn in the book, it will make all of us, every time I read it, makes me yawn, makes the kids yawn. And so then they all just settle in for their nap together. So it was a lot of fun to kind of take a big theme and just kind of make it small in the size that children need to be able to process, to developmentally fit them best.
Yeah. I firmly believe that we start preparing for nap time as soon as children show up in the classroom in the morning. So I am always a big proponent of, first of all, we do a lot of really big activity throughout the morning so that by the time we get to nap time, their bodies actually really are tired, even if they don't want to admit it. And then I think reading books like Moo Moo Nap Nap during a morning circle time, there's no reason that you have to save it for nap time, because every time we read those things, we're actually building brain neurons that say, oh, this is a normal part of my day. That nap time is actually a great part of my day. Oh, look, nap time is actually part of God's design for us as people to rest. God's design for animals to rest. So I do think we're building the neural connections every time we read something like this, every time we talk about nap time in a positive way. We're building the neural connections that make it easier when you get to that 12:30 after lunch time period where children are kind of buck the system.
Yes.
When their brain is already thinking, oh, this is normal, sometimes it's easier to get them to settle down. So I think resources like this are actually beneficial to use throughout the day. And then, let's repeat it during lunch or right after lunch as a quiet way to really settle our bodies now. So thank you for doing that. That is
A lot of fun to write.
I think that repetition, even like reading it once kids are already laying down, is going to be beneficial just in that repeat, right? Like their brains they know what's going to happen. So there's no reason to be on high alert.
I've loved watching children, sometimes they'll have the little cuddle animal with them. I know in pre-K and kindergarten, they can still have those. And they'll kind of tuck them in for nap time too, kind of like they're a caregiver. Kind of imitating that process. And then it's also fun to look at the animals in the book and kind of do a study on, so when do horses sleep? How do horses sleep? And to showcase to kids once again the rhythms that God created the animals to have, and that God was purposeful in the design of even the rhythms of the animals.
Boy, that's a lesson for us as grown-ups, and much as it is for kids.
It is.
I think a lot of us, while I don't necessarily fight sleep on a regular basis, recognizing that God has created a rhythm of rest that sometimes it's not even just about sleeping or taking a nap, but just a rhythm of really resting our minds, resting in Him and His provision for us. There's a lesson for us as adults in that as much as there is for kids.
And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful He made us need to rest. And when we recognize it, our lives are so much better.
Goodness, that is so, so true. So if you could give preschool teachers one thing to bring excitement around books like this, like both of these books are board books, lift the flap books that give teachers just a really fun and engaging way to read with children as there's anticipation on every page as they're lifting flaps and things. If there was one thing you could encourage a teacher to do as she's reading books to kids, what would that be to create an engaging read aloud?
One of the things that I love to do when I read stories to children, the best storytellers that I've ever had, they're going to read in an engaging voice. With your voice tone matters because then it conveys this sense of warmth and it conveys the sense of excitement with the kids. And then when you can ask the kids, do you anticipate is going to happen next in the story, where the
Yeah.
kids can become part of the story.
Oh,
Then
I love that.
another thing that I have always loved doing with read alouds in the classroom, and I still even use read alouds in high school because there's really complex historical topics that are written in picture books that are perfect to bring big ideas into.
Yeah.
But on the younger classrooms, I love when they take a book and you've read it in class and you've discussed it and then you act it out. You're not
Mhm.
necessarily
Yeah.
going to have scripts or you're going to assign roles, but you just kind of organically put on a little show about the book where the kids can act it out and they're retelling the story, which
Yeah.
makes it more memorable for them. They're able to see how stories work. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end, and they become excited about the books as well. So those are a few of my tips.
I love that. I love that. Well, listen, you've created some great resources for us, for our classrooms, for young mamas that we should be sharing with those young mamas of the students in our classrooms. So I thank you for that. And we will link to all of these in the show notes, y'all. And you should connect with Sarah on our website. We'll link to that, allamericanmom.net. And we will link to that in the show notes as well. Sarah, last words for our classroom teachers.
Oh, you are doing the most important work of taking care of those little ones and helping grow and develop them. So thank you for all you do for our next future generation.
Sarah has this strong desire to not only teach kids the science of growing cycles, plant cycles, and the daily rhythms of animals, but I hope you heard her heart to connect both of these things to God's creation and God's design. God has placed us on this earth to care for it, and He's created a world that's part of our provision, like His gift to us. When we connect simple things like plant life cycles to God's design for growth or nap time to God's design for rhythms of rest in our lives, we're quietly but powerfully forming children's worldview. God is good. He's created so much for us to enjoy, and we can trust Him to take care of us through the plants that will grow and provide food for us, or for the rhythms of rest He's given us to remind us that He's in control all the time, even when we're still. On a separate note, Sarah has also written a devotional book to help women who've suffered infant and pregnancy loss. So if you, or maybe a mama in your ministry, has suffered through something like this, check out the link in our show notes to that book as well. As always, thank you for all that you do to help young children encounter God, for the ministry you provide to parents in your influence. You are making a difference. Thanks for spending time with us today on Reimagine Childhood. We hope you walk away with a fresh idea, a little encouragement, and a big reminder that your work with young children truly changes lives. If this episode was helpful, would you take a moment to subscribe? Rate the show in whichever app you listen, and then share this episode with someone who might benefit. Your engagement helps us reach more teachers and caregivers who are shaping the next generation for Jesus. Stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, and our website at earlychildhoodchristiannetwork.com. Until next time, keep nurturing wonder, faith, and joy in the children God has placed in your care.